This week on Steel Horse Thunder.
It's hard to fathom the amount of motorcycles they're saying are going to be there.
1 million motorcycles descend into Washington, D.C. for a cause unlike any other.
There are those that are listed as missing in action that could have survived.
That's the big question is nobody knows because we didn't follow up when there was live sightings and reports of live sightings.
This can't happen to other families.
Emotions are high. The stories are real. And as we would learn over the next 5 days, the experience would change us forever.
I have cried more this weekend than I've cried in a long time.
This is the ride to the wall. Our journey begins on the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend in Indianapolis as we ride with Rolling Thunder, Indiana Chapter 1 to Washington, D.C. We travel with veterans and non-veterans alike to take part in one of the largest demonstration rides in the country, which has the mission of bringing attention to the POW MIA situation from World War II, Korea, and Vietnam.
Is there still POWs over there?
You know, that's the big question is nobody knows because we didn't follow up when there was live sightings and reports of live sightings. Nobody followed up on it. So now there's a lot of families that are still suffering. They don't know what happened to their sons and their daughters, and that's what we're about, is trying to find out and not closing the books on them before we really looked everywhere and found out.
One such person affected by the situation is Linda Cope, whose brother, Ronald Smith, went missing in Vietnam. Since he went missing, Linda and her family have been given 6 different versions of what happened to Ronald by the United States government.
My big brother, Ronald Smith, he is still missing in action from the Vietnam War. Special Forces, Special Ops Group got left behind. I come here to pay tribute to him, to see his name and touch his name on the wall every year, bring something that honors him. And my second reason for coming is to tell the government they're not going to do this again. They're not going to do it again. I had a son to go to Afghanistan that was, I don't think I breathed all year. This can't happen to other families. Not only was he very patriotic, he was in the Navy and then he was in the Army and Special Forces, but he was also my hero in my life from the time I was born. He took over as being my father. He was 10 years older than me, and my younger brother is about a year younger than me, and he, with my mother, raised us because our dad left. And he was just bigger than life to us anyway, to start with, before he went and did this.
Unfortunately, Linda is not alone. Since World War II, the United States has over 83,000 men and women unaccounted for.
There's still POWs, still missing in action, MIAs. And Rolling Thunder, we're just wanting to make awareness to the public of what our vets have gone through.
The other issue that is important, there's a lot of remains that are being found now. They're being identified through DNA and other identification methods, and those servicemen are being returned home, some from World War II, some from Korea, and some from Vietnam still yet.
You know, I can't imagine those POWs though. I mean, the war started in what? I mean, it actually started in like 58.
Yeah.
And we got involved in 64.
Yeah.
And the war was over in 75?
Yeah.
Is that what it was? I mean, to me,
all
it's
this
just
time,
amazing.
and those questions still haven't been answered.
Right.
What happened to my son? What happened to my daughter?
So they do still go over there, and there are remains that are brought home,
Yes.
even to this day.
They're still bringing home remains from World War II and Korea.
Wow.
And I'm sure, you know, there's still POWs if they're live, you know, or they just died there and no one's ever known anything about it. We still have 51 here in Indiana that are totally unaccounted for.
I am not a veteran. I was never in the armed forces. Something I wish I would have done now in my older years. I look back and I wish I would have done it after high school. I did not, but I have a lot of respect for the men and women that go and put their lives on the line for our country. So for me, it's a chance that I can finally honor those You know, when I had my opportunity, I didn't take advantage of it, and now I at least have a chance to go back and honor those that went out and did the job.
I think it's going to be very emotional for me. I think it's going to be very somber, just maybe even overwhelming at times.
Our ride began, and it sure didn't feel like spring.
Hey, so far so good. It's cold. It's cold.
Freezing. It's so cold.
But what we didn't know was that the cold weather was nothing compared to what was ahead of us.
Hey, we're getting ready to take off for the second day. We're in Southern Ohio right now. Had a great night, good meal, good night's sleep. We're up early. It's some 100 hours according to the military. But you know what? It's going to be a beautiful day. We got blue skies. We got warmer weather. It's going to be really nice. We're going to be going over some mountains when we get over by West Virginia and Virginia. So we're all looking forward to that. But that being said, this will be a very long day. Once we get there, we got to get checked in, and then we'll be going down to the wall later on at night. So, I mean, this is going to be a day where we're starting early in the morning. We won't get done until probably 12 or 1 o'clock this morning by the time we get back to the hotel room. But we're very excited and anticipating a great time. Jeff, obviously your bike stands out. You have the perfect bike for this ride this weekend. How'd you get this done?
A friend of mine did this for me out of Muncie, Indiana. Did it just for this ride, just for the purpose of this one ride.
And what does this ride mean to you?
Means a lot. I've got a son there, and just interested in getting there. Want to see the wall again, and it's just means a lot. I mean, all the guys that's riding with us, the ones that haven't made it back, the ones that are there now. So,
what do you think makes so many of us get on our motorcycles and run to D.C. this weekend?
I think just knowing what it's about. I mean, it's about the men and the women that didn't come home, and just the camaraderie of everybody that's here.
For you, does it start to settle in a little bit more now as we keep getting closer and closer to D.C.? Does that kind of set in a little bit more as we're riding?
Yes, much it does. It gets into much more, and more bikes we see on the road. We're meeting some here and there, and another 2 hours, I'm sure we'll be on top of everybody. So,
one of the stops in Washington, D.C. will be the Vietnam War Memorial, known simply as the Wall. The wall has the names of over 58,300 servicemen and women who were killed in action or are missing in action. Vietnam veterans and family members of veterans travel to the wall to find names of soldiers they once knew and to pay tribute to those who never came back.
Is there anybody on the wall that you're looking for?
Because of the movie We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson in it, there's a Captain Metzger that was killed in that battle, and he's from Indianapolis, so I wanted to see his name and get a rubbing. One of the guys I work with, his brother is on the wall, and I'm going to get a rubbing for him also.
A rubbing?
You put a piece of paper up and you rub a pencil across it and you get an imprint of their name.
A rubbing is a common ritual at the wall. Visitors will place a piece of paper over the name and rub a pencil over it, revealing the name on the paper. It then becomes a keepsake for the family to have forever.
It's not about me, and it's not about these guys here, because we're all here.
Right.
It's the guys that aren't accounted for. And I think the closer I get, the more that realization comes to light.
I know it could have been my name on the wall, or any of my friends and brothers that was in the service with me. You know, it could be their names on the wall at any time. I mean, that's the price you pay being a veteran.
The ride from Ohio to Washington, D.C. was beautiful to the eyes, but tense on the heart. With all the time on the motorcycles, Cindy and I had to wonder what to expect when we arrived. We had heard the stories of how emotional the first time can be at the wall, but nothing could prepare us for what we were about to witness. There are 3 parts to the Vietnam Memorial: a nurse's memorial, the statue of the 3 soldiers, and the wall. Our group was able to spend time at each memorial.
There's 3 nurses at this memorial here, the nurses of Vietnam. The one nurse is holding the patient in her arms in our lab. It's a sucking chest wound. One nurse is looking for the dust off, and the third one is praying to God that everything gets here and the guy makes it.
Here comes a helicopter with these guys have been all cut up, messed up, smelling pretty bad. Those nurses did bat an eyelash. They did what they needed to do to clean those guys up, get their wounds fixed, and get them fixed back up again. Sometimes they held the hand of the guy as he took his last breath, give him that last minute of comfort. Sometimes we just don't take the time to think about their sacrifice and the people behind the lines and the sacrifice they had to make sometimes. We always think about those in combat, but we always like to take time and think about the nurses and give them thanks. When the sculptor made these 3 statues, one represents the white guy, the Caucasian, one represents the black man, and one represents the Latino. Now they're dressed in typical wear that we had in the Vietnam. And if you notice, they're all looking that direction. If it's daylight, you'd realize they're looking at the apex of the Vietnam Wall. They're looking for their buddies that come out of the bush, out of the jungle. Where are they? That's what they're doing. They're looking for them. These guys survived. They're looking for their brothers that didn't come back. On all these names out here, you'll find there's 3 sets of fathers and sons. 39,996 were only 22 years old. 12 of them were only 17. 5 were only 16, and there was one that was only 15 years old that lost his life. Of those that went to Vietnam, 997 were killed on their very first day. And those that served there, 1,448 were killed on their last scheduled day of service in Vietnam. There are those that are listed as missing in action that could have survived. 58,000 lives that never came home. Not living anyway. There's something about this place. These black granite walls with all these names. But until you can take one of these names and understand that it's a person and make a connection with that person, it's really hard to fathom the loss that these walls represent. If we were to inscribe every name on this wall that died from the effects of Agent Orange or took their own life because of post-traumatic stress syndrome, they'd have to build 3 more walls. Vietnam's still killing us today. The fallen soldiers let us sing, where no rockets fly nor bullets wing. Our broken brothers let us bring to the mansions of the Lord. No more bleeding, no more fight. No more prayers bleeding through the night. Just divine embrace and eternal light in the mansions of the Lord. Where no mothers cry and no children weep, we will stand and guard though the angels sleep. Oh, through the ages safely keep the mansions of the Lord.
After our tour, our group was able to spend their own time searching for names and paying their respects, including Stumpy, who was able to find the name of his friend's brother.
Right down here near the bottom, his name's going to be Clarence Jones. He's over there, 131. It's a co-worker at work. He only met his brother one time in his life, and then he died in Vietnam. He has very little memory of him. He found out I was coming out here, and he requested me to do this for him. now he'll have something to remember his brother for forever now.
And Linda, who was able to see her brother Ronald's name on the wall.
Well, for my first time here, not only at the wall, but at D.C., you know, to be able to take a walk with Pastor Big Daddy and hear a little bit about what truly takes place here. I understand now. I heard stories being here and seeing those that have come to see their loved ones and their name on the wall. How I had to explain to me is, you know, they're missing in action. There is nowhere for them to go. There is no gravesite. There is nothing except for that name on this wall. And I'll be honest, I was touched very much to hear about the nurses' memorial and the 3 soldiers and how those 3 soldiers are positioned to where they're facing the apex of this Vietnam War wall and knowing how many did not make it home and so many still unaccounted for. I'm kind of at a loss for words right now. It's an emotion I didn't think I was really ever gonna. I just didn't think I would feel that since I'm not a military person. But my gosh, the sacrifice that was made. We can never underestimate the sacrifice that was made.
After a heartbreaking Friday night, we ventured out into Washington, D.C. to see some more of the memorials. Our first stop was the World War II Memorial, where the Honor Flight was arriving. This year, the Honor Flight was bringing in World War II vets from Dayton, Ohio, to see the memorial in person.
These are the guys that fought in World War II, and they're older gentlemen that are coming out to be honored today. Thank you so much for your service. How you doing?
Okay.
Are you having a good time?
Yes.
Yes. Have they treated you good?
All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate it so much. Enjoyable?
Very enjoyable.
It's a long day, though, isn't it?
I don't bother me. I'm enjoying it.
Are you a veteran?
Yes.
Yes. You look so young. You look like you're only 40. What are you doing?
One thing that is always so interesting is that the Vietnam vets said every one of them goes, that's not the reception I got when I came home.
That's true.
Every one of them, they all break into tears.
It's so sad.
It is so sad. I said, you absolutely deserved it.
They did.
They never got that.
So it's a special day.
It is a special day.
It's almost like sacred.
Yes, it is.
Cindy then had the honor and privilege of meeting 92-year-old World War II vet Philip and his son. The smile and joy coming from Philip was something we will never forget.
How long have you been married? 66 years.
66 years. That's love.
The only problem is he was in the Army Air Corps, I was in the Navy, so I only give him a hard time once a year when we play play football.
I love your jacket.
Did you see his papers? You got the real deal, right?
It's the real deal.
It's his honorable discharge from 1946.
Wow.
There's your old brothers right there.
Yeah, all the other brothers, yeah. There's all the other brothers, you're right. You got that right.
It's pretty cool that your son followed in your footsteps and joined. Yeah. Are you proud of that? Yeah. Well, we're proud of you. Thank you very much for all you've done for us. Have a great day today.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
We were told not to wear uniforms because people were spitting on us, and yeah, they were calling us baby killers and everything else, and then a lot of everything else. And that was happening everywhere. And not just one or two, but hundreds. So the emotion to be appreciated is different.
And you deserve to be appreciated. And I'm so sorry that people would treat you guys that way because you don't deserve it at all. I'm glad you're being honest.
It's different. It's okay. Can't read it.
Well, thank you so much.
Hearing the stories, it was hard to fathom what these vets went through. We were there to honor them for their service, and yet we felt sadness inside, wishing we could do more. Our next stop was Arlington Cemetery, where we would be witness to an incredible tradition, the changing of the guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier.
While we're in Washington, D.C., we had to come by Arlington Cemetery, visit the tomb of the unknown soldier, and watch the changing of the guards. You'll never see anything as precise as what you're about to see.
Our last stop for the day would be back at the wall, where I wanted to have one more look at the memorial.
It's hard to grasp the scale of this. This wall is almost 500 feet long, and at its highest point, it's 10 feet high. The names are written very small, and yet it takes all that room. It's amazing how the mood changes as you get down to here. The people coming back out after seeing whether it's family or whether it's somebody they served with, and you see them coming back up. It changes completely down here. Indiana Rolling Thunder Chapter 1 that we rode with, they brought a wreath and they brought dog tags for everybody that's missing from Indiana from the Vietnam War. And we placed the dog tags on the wreath as a memorial here at the wall.
As we were leaving, we passed by a woman reading a poem to her brother, whose name was written on the wall.
It's gonna feel so good to be back in the world. I'll finally see my family and my favorite girl. Now all that matters was going home. Well, that was 24 years ago. Why things happen this way, I don't know. But here I am standing at your name, standing at the wall in the pouring rain. The tears won't stop. I can't see clear. And here I am holding on to 2 beers. Welcome home to you, my brother. On a bunker in the evening breeze, we sat and talked and watched the trees. We talked about home and the girls we've known, and the 57 Chevy that you once owned. Welcome home to you, my brother.
On our final day, we traveled to the Pentagon to stage for the main reason we came here, the demonstration ride through the streets of Washington, D.C.
Linda, we got to talk to you when we first got to D.C. I know you went down to the wall. Can you explain the emotions that come along with going down to the wall and seeing your brother's name up there?
It's incredible. I'm overwhelmed by it. Years ago, I promised myself that I wouldn't cry in front of people because I've seen fake emotion and I couldn't bear that, but I can't deal with it. I'm lost in that moment. I hardly know what's going on behind me. I just want to, I feel him there, and whatever we take to the wall, that's my time to give to him. It's more emotional. It's just like it just happened. I remember things in our past that I hadn't thought of for a while when I was little, and how he took care of my brother and I. And the waste of losing him and all those names on that wall. I think of all the lives that my brother's touched and the void that is left by his absence. And you look at those 58,000 plus names and the millions of people that are touched by all those names. It's more emotion than I don't even know how to explain.
Well, Dave, I know we've talked a couple times along the way here.
Yep.
Can you describe what it was like when you were able to go to the wall for the first time?
I don't know that I've got a word for it. It was very intense. We had 2 names we were looking for, and it took a while, but we did find them, even though we knew which panel they were on and which line number. It still took a while. I guess intense just about sums it up for me. Overwhelmed.
Before we took off on the ride, we walked around the parking lot and discovered some incredible people with incredible stories.
Debbie, your bike stands out even in a crowd of hundreds of thousands. It's obvious this bike has a story behind it. Would you be willing to share your story with us?
Absolutely. The story's about my son, James W. Higgins Jr., U.S. Marine Corps. Started out in the Civil Air Patrol, was going in the Air Force Academy, switched over to the Marine Corps, served his tour in Iraq, and unfortunately 4 days before leaving, he was shot and killed in Iraq.
I'm so sorry to hear that. The bike pays a tribute to him. Can you tell me a little bit about what the pictures we see on this? And I mean, obviously it's a different exhaust than you normally find. It's a different seat. Can you share a little bit about that?
It has a great history. The bike's an 05 Springer Softail. It's been lowered and bobbed out and customized to honor the military and first responders and to honor my son. There's a picture of the dog tag. He was shot through the armpit. It came out his chest, and hit the dog tag into the protective gear, and it wrapped it around it. Then there's pictures of him with family, with his dog, pictures of him giving the children candy in Iraq. The main picture on it is 4 different pictures of him in Iraq fused to one. Chris Nicholson with Toxic Arts, he's the one that donated all his time to do this.
Wow.
The seat is from the Humvee that he shot and killed in front of, and we've had it painted white to cover the blood and to project the cover that a Marine would wear. The exhaust, Chris Nicholson's father wanted something of his on here. He served in the Army, and we put the exhaust on there from 54 Chevy. What we wanted to do was to honor him, to be respectful for the units, to honor all the military branches, to show what America pays the price for the American flag and everything that it stands for. And all these people here today are here to do that very thing, to say thank you for our freedom.
Behind us is an example of what our soldiers went through, captured in previous wars. This is a typical setting for a prisoner of war.
Being around all the veterans and getting a look at what a POW had to live in for days, months, and even years can overcome you with emotions.
Okay. I'm sorry, it's okay. It's okay.
After all the experiences and all the things we had seen that weekend, the time had finally come. We were ready to ride.
Love you.
We left the Pentagon and headed up the ramp towards the bridge. You could feel the support from the onlookers as they cheered and waved American flags. As we got to the bridge, the bikes came to a stop, and it gave us a chance to reflect on what we had seen this unforgettable weekend. The friends we came with,
And the hot tub was wonderful.
Well, it wasn't clothing optional, so I could not go down there. So
the many miles we traveled to get here.
Hey, so far so good. It's cold. It's cold.
The World War II vets.
Well, we're proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all you've done for us.
The tens of thousands of names on the wall, and the countless lives touched by our servicemen and women.
But he was also my hero in my life from the time I was born.
Welcome home to you, my brother.
This was why we were here. This is why we were riding. One of the most incredible things about the ride is the saluting Marine. From the time the ride starts to the time the ride ends, a Marine stands at a salute to honor all the riders. The ride lasts well over 4 hours.
what a ride. Never anything like that. It just seemed like the more you looked, the more people you saw, the bikes everywhere. I've never seen anything like this. This was one of the coolest demonstration rides I've ever been a part of, that's for sure.
Speechless. I was just in awe of all the people out there.
The trip felt like it was over before it began, and on our ride back to Indianapolis, we were able to reflect on the weekend with our fellow F&Gs. If you don't know what F&G stands for, let's just say the NG stands for new guy. As a non-military person, I did not expect it to be a very emotional weekend for me. In 2007, we lost our son to suicide, and it was Sunday night of Memorial Weekend. Since 2007, obviously Memorial Weekend has been a little tarnished for us since then. This weekend coming here, to me, I felt almost like there was a new rebirth for us. Memorial Weekend will have a real meaning for me. The emotions I felt was something I never, ever, ever expected. Down at the Vietnam Wall, that Friday night, it just hit, and it never went away. When I got here, it's like, can anybody really tell me the true meaning of Memorial Weekend? And 800,000 people came out on their motorcycles and showed me the real reason.
They saluted in my direction, but it was not me they were saluting. It was the POWs and the MIAs who were still gone. It was a very, very emotionally draining day.
You know, you don't imagine what it's going to be like for those. You know, I asked somebody a question about, I asked Bill about the POWs, you know, if there were some still here or over there. And to me, to think of that there's actually people still over there and living that way, I can't, it's unimaginable to me.
The one part of the ride that got me was the different nationalities that was along the route, still waving the American flag and cheering us. And it brings us back that actually, unless any of us are 100% Indian, at one time somebody in our family was a foreigner and came here to this land and made it great. And it's still happening now.
You know, we talk about never forgetting, but I don't know, my heart just, are we really not forgetting so many things?
Yes, we lost our son, but we have closure. We know what happened. I know where he's laid to rest. I put him there myself. Many of you don't have that closure. And I think that's what hit me. As bad as we thought we had it, at least we have closure. A lot of you do not have closure. The reflection session was a time to share our most intimate thoughts about the weekend, and there was no shortage of intense stories.
It didn't really hit me until that night, and your subconscious takes over. And I was standing in a room with many of you men, and there was a man that came into the room. No one said anything, and he walked up to me and he said, "I saw you tonight, and I know why you're down here. You're down here, your heart's open, and that's why I'm talking to you. Because you're down here because we could not do this. We could not raise our children, have families. And I came to you for a reason." There was a soldier that come out of that wall and talked to me. Could not believe it. A soldier had a connection with me off of that wall of 58,000 plus. I could not believe it. It didn't hit me right then, but later it did. That's my biggest thing, what I'm going to take out of that and out of this whole ride, and open up my mind and my heart for other things that could happen at any point in time.
On our first ride to the wall, we laughed and we cried. We talked with some unbelievable people, and at times were left speechless. It was a weekend and a ride that left an unforgettable mark on our souls forever. And at the end of the day, we rode for those who gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we may enjoy the freedom we have today. We rode for the families who have the empty feeling of not knowing what happened to their loved ones. And on Memorial Day weekend 2015, 1 million motorcycles would prove once again, it's not what you ride, it's that you ride.